What up, Gotcha Gang? Today we're going over swimsuit Sohee, also known as summertime Sohee, I guess, but let's be honest, this is the first attempt to sell us a skin as a new hero. First things first, I don't like to beg for subs, so you and me, we gotta play rock, paper, scissors. If I beat you, you have to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you lose, or if you tie, you just do whatever you want, okay? Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I can't lie, I'm pretty excited to be here with you guys today. I have been busy. It is good to get back to some normalcy with Guardian Tales. I'm pretty pumped to cover this with you. Let me give a quick rundown of Sohee in terms of strength and weaknesses, so you can know if the rest of the video is for you or not. Strength-wise, Sohee really excels at damaging the backline and doing AoE damage. You can think of her as Rue in that regards, but instead of ranged, it's also melee damage. On the surface, she seems like she'd be really good in something like Coliseum or Camo Zone or clearing PvE content in general. When you actually look into the numbers of her, you don't actually see a very high attack rate. It'd be really hard to justify one of the larger DPS outputs that's AI automatically goes after something like a backline ranged unit. So she isn't as powerful as a lot of the other units, so when it comes down to actually controlling her, she may not be the best option for you, given that she's a basic. That puts her in weird contention. Basic has two units that you generally want to run in your party, being Nari and Future Knight. Future Knight is pretty good in the support role, meaning that you don't have to be the one to prioritize over being your main, so you don't have to use her weapon skill to truly excel with Future Knight. But Nari, she can play that supportive role. She's a really good secondary DPS alongside other options, but she's still going to do a massive amount of DPS compared to what Sohee can put out there. So Sohee is somewhere in the range between the third and the fourth priority, depending on how you place Eva within this current banner itself. You can take that as it is. I think she's going to really excel for raid people. I think that she's going to really excel in a place like Camo Zone or at a place like Coliseum under certain conditions. I don't think that she's going to be a universal meta contender in those areas. On the surface, I don't think she's going to be that great of an arena champion, but let's go ahead and look at her hero information here and break her down just a little bit more. So she's a two-handed sword accessory user, Ripping Rush, damage enemies with the surfing skills, prioritizes her attack to range dealers or enemies far away. Like we were mentioning, her AI will prioritize doing damage to the people furthest away, and you can think of her in Rue in that regard. Her AI seems to play, just by watching some footage of her and listening to people like Zebo, it seems to play like it's a Vishuvac AI with the mechanics of a Rue, so that's pretty interesting. Chain skill creates a wave to inflict 400% of DPS range damage to the enemy and restores all allies HP by 10% to 30% maximum depending on the number of enemies hit. This is actually pretty good. Her chain skill is fairly strong when compatible with her weapon skill. So let's look at this. Inflicts 400% of DPS, which is already pretty high on the chain skill side. We do see chain skills get higher, but 400% is on the top end of that, and restores all allies HP by 10% to 30% maximum, depending on the numbers hit. So this is pretty powerful. The issue that you're going to have is this is not sustainable in that you will not be proccing chain skill enough. The good thing is that if you are maining Future Knight, you can get something like this chain skill to go off often, but just because of the way that the builds play out, you're gonna want to use Nari or Sohee as your leader compared to Future Knight. So this 10 to 30% isn't going to actually be activated as much, because if you are leading with her, you can't activate this chain skill as often. And her special ability, White Robe, damage taken is reduced by 50% maximum in proportion to HP loss. So the lower HP she has, the tankier she gets. But in all honesty, that really won't be that big of a deal, because she still doesn't have the actual details and attributes to truly be someone that's going to tank up everything that the enemy puts out there. She is not a tank first and foremost. She is in this weird bruiser class role, similar to someone like Rue and someone like Vishuvac, so it makes sense that those two are that you see her comparable to. So she can be a little bit of a sustain option, given that basic doesn't really have the best units to put in the front line. It does make sense that Sohee could slot into that area. So When we look at melee attack plus 50% and the fact that she is basic, that kind of is rough with Nari and Future Knight. Skill attack plus 10%, weapon regen plus 4%, and 5% on skill or shield on battle start. Those aren't really relevant. That melee plus 50% just does not really work within the basic as it currently stands. So you're going to be using her outside of a rainbow comp, or you're going to be using her in a rainbow comp outside of purely basic team compositions. So if you're going after her, you're going after her for two very big reasons. And yeah, I don't really know what those two are. Let's look at her equipment. Nereid, basic attack of the 4,000 DPS range. That's actually pretty large. Basic attack getting up to 1574 is more important than this figure right here, this number, because this is what the animations actually scale off of, is this basic attack right here. Critical hit chance 3%, defense 71%, which is fairly large for a weapon, but it is a two-handed sword, so she's not going to get to use the shield. Weapon skill regen plus 22%, defense plus 20%, also huge, especially when this is a large modifier as well. You're eking out an extra, what, 5 to 10 defense just because of this base here. HP at 16% on ripping rushes, hit fire magneton energy once every 3 seconds and deal additional 75% of DPS damage. Attacks maximum of 3 enemies. Water dolphin, summon a dolphin to inflict damage around the target and puts enemies in an injured state. So when we're looking at this, the ripping rush hit, this is her auto attack. Fire magneton energy once every 3 seconds and deal additional 75% chance of DPS damage. This is interesting. So if you're attacking a unit or you're constantly attacking units, once every 3 seconds, you can do a 75% increase additional DPS. So that's almost an extra auto attack every 3 seconds, which is okay. It's not amazing. You will see better scaling out there than if you were constantly attacking. You can think of this as a 25% DPS buff, which isn't actually the best multiplier that we see coming out of these items. If anything, it's rather low. And then her skill information here, water dolphin, an attack of 175% DPS, summons a dolphin to inflict damage around the target and puts enemies in injured state. As you see the animation play out, you will see that it is pretty important how this actually plays into the fighting situations as a whole. That dolphin that comes out and does that AoE damage, those are pretty important overall to the way that she plays out. So when we think through what exactly Sohee is going to be useful for, it doesn't really eclipse too much. She could be a good option to throw into units that are into team comps that are utilizing Lilith and Beth, like myself, because she's giving additional melee attack buff. And she's also a basic unit, which isn't your light dark combination, so she could counter a lot of the units that are currently out there. And seeing as units like Future Princess are still in the meta regardless, she could honestly see a good role to fill in to beat the people that are abusing Future Princess and Gabriel. So on a scale of like D to S, I'm gonna also put her same as Lucy at the A- rank. I don't think that she's really going to excel in the current meta or even future metas. She doesn't truly seem to have a place, but she seems to be a good 3rd or 4th option to solidify other team comps. So for you new users, I think that she is a skip. For you existing users, I think that she's probably a skip. And you in-game users, I think you already know if you need her within your raid compositions or not. So if I was to put priority on her, she would be the 3rd in this banner behind Future Knight, who I think is still going to find good usability throughout most metas because of the way that those weapon skill regens work. And then Nari, who I think will be a part of every meta just because of the defense or the defense shred. So guys, that'll do it for me. Thank you for checking out this. I look forward to seeing more of you in the future. Peace.